Everybody, and welcome to Artisan Mentoring, where we talk all things piano craft, and we do it all week long. 3 times a week, we meet up and we talk about repairs, tuning, servicing, regulation, trying not to catch the pianos on fire, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Today's lesson is on burning, specifically burning. Now, there's traveling and there's burning, and there's kind of some things that I've learned over the last, I would say 15 years, because, probably 15 years. Because what happened is when I was getting started, I worked for a company, and my mentor knew quite a bit, but there was some massive gaps. Let's just say that. There were some massive gaps in what he knew and therefore what I knew as a technician. So what happened is I had to, I left that mentor and that company fairly abruptly, and then kind of we started our own business, my wife Kathy and we started working on pianos, and we got in touch with classic pianos. This would have been in late 2005, early 2006, and I met a phenomenal technician who's also a mentor of mine. His name is John Slavic, phenomenal technician. And basically he wanted to give me a shot. And so he's like, hey, how about if you know how to hang a set of grand hammers? I'm looking for somebody to kind of just take that over and we can sub it out to you. I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll do that. And he's like, okay, and you're able to burn and travel them? And I'm like, yes. But just in case we're on the same page, what's burning and traveling? It was one of those things. And he's like, and he kind of gave me a tutorial on it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of this, and yes, I will totally do that. So over the course of that next year, I probably did 50 sets of new hammers for them over that course of the year. So I got fairly good at it. But I can tell you that the first set, I wish I could go back in time and just, from this outside perspective, just watch myself do it, because I had no idea what I was doing, and it was all trial and error. And the way that I did it early on was the way that I see a lot of technicians doing that, and that is with an open flame. So just so you all know, the concept of burning a hammer is what we're doing is actually applying heat to the shank. Essentially, that's what we're doing. We're applying heat to the shank to therefore bend the hammer to the left or to the right. And you would do this with an upright piano as well, because you want them to be hitting the strings square on. And so what happens is, you can see with this one, let me see, this one is like cockeyed, over to the right, or left, depending on how this is showing up for you. And what you're going to see is that when it's tilted over to the side, it's going to hit one of the 2 or 3 strings more than the others. And so by burning the hammers over, we're actually basically squaring up that hammer so that it's going to hit all 3 strings at the same time. And it's also going to not rub up against the other neighboring hammer, which we'll get into that a little bit later on in this lesson, because that seems to happen quite a bit with upright pianos. And so I've been doing that lately using this new tool that I found. But going back, most technicians will use some kind of an open flame, or at least they were 20 years ago when I was, 15, 20 years ago. And this works. You can absolutely do this, and you're basically taking and you're heating the shank. You're making sure that you're not staying in one particular spot, and then you're tilting the piano or the hammerhead over to the side to get it to line up correctly. Has anybody ever done this yet? Victor's shaking his head. Yes, I'm a pro at it. I know how to do it. It's one of those jobs you're going to run into, and the reason I want to show you this and kind of the proper procedure and kind of what not to do is, even if you're not doing a full-on regulation, you may run into scenarios where this hammer is tilted way, way off to the side and it's rubbing. So even if you're not doing fine, high-level concert regulation work, you may find that this hammer is tilted so far over, and that's what I'm actually going to do right now, is I'm going to heat up the shank and make it so that this hammer is tilted so far over it's rubbing against the neighbor. So can anybody guess why I am not actually a fan of this lighter technique?
You can char pretty easily the wood.
You can totally char very easily the wood, yes. And I feel like even if you're not, maybe it is charring it, but the smoke that comes out of it, let me see if you can see that. You can see right there. It's not charred, but that smoke is just discoloring this like crazy. And so this is how I used to do it. When I was kind of, again, working with classic pianos, I just kind of had an open flame and everything was burned fine. Everything was lined up correctly. But John Slavic is very kind of attention to detail. I mean, these pianos that they're rebuilding needed to sell for top dollar. And so when they came to look at the piano, their technicians, and they saw all this char, that does not look great, because even so I would even like sand it off after I was done to try to help with that. And then John Slavic, one of my mentors, he just suggested, okay, why not use more of a heat gun kind of application? So this, can you see that? You're going to see this out in the field where the hammer is so far over, it's kind of rubbing against the neighboring one. And as I go up with it, look at the space on this side. That space shrinks. And so that's what you want to be looking for. That the side that it's shrinking, that space right there, that means that the hammer has to be moved over to that space. So this is something that you're going to see not only in the grand piano, but also in your upright piano. So it'll look like that, where it's way over to the side. And you're going to see that a lot with these upright pianos. And I can tell you, having something like this or a lighter in the upright pianos is even harder. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of holding everything aside and you're trying to push it and use this flame and have it not travel upwards and hit the felt. It's a big deal. And so what I eventually moved to, the next integration of my I guess burning journey would be something like this, matte. Literally something like this. Or I think at the time Pianos Tech sold this heat gun, this Weller heat gun that was kind of green color. It looked like it was from the 70s or 80s, and I had one of those as well. I liked this at the time because it had this dial temp, something like this. And so I could make it so that I wasn't, in fact, charring the wood anymore. And that was such a plus for me. However, if you ever use these, I mean, this is big. This is like bigger than a drill. Like this, I mean, Stacy's cracking up. What are your thoughts, Stacy?
It looks like a huge, scary blow dryer. It's huge.
Like it's
like, how would you? It'd be hard to isolate. Like,
well, what I would do is I would hold it like this, and then simply go up like that, up and down. The nice thing is, yeah, I'm not charring that shank anymore. However, it's like, I mean, this has some serious weight to it, so it's a lot. But this is, I feel like, a safer option than the open flame like this. And so I'm going to go ahead and just using this, I'm actually going to go ahead and just burn this hammer over. So let's do that. So as you can see, this one needs to be actually tilted to the left right here. And I'm putting a fair amount of pressure on this hammerhead. And I'm about a ½ an inch to an inch away, and I'm never stopping in one spot. And actually, it's cool enough that I can actually touch the shank right there with it. And it's slowly moving over. And I would say that it works okay. after I would say several years of using this, I upgraded into, and I don't have one to show you, but I upgraded into more of a, it's called an embossing gun, and they're on Amazon. They're easy to get. You can usually get them at craft stores, and they're like kind of more of a wand. You know, it has a cord to it, and it heats up, and it allows you to kind of have a smaller heat source to get more into the nitty gritty. And that's what I've used, I would say, up until about last week, literally up until about last week. And then I threw it away because I found something else that I'm actually a huge fan of. And I don't know if today's going to be an extra long lesson because, again, it's more of a show and tell. But what I found, because I was in a pinch, the heat gun, I didn't have one of them down here in Arizona, and then I wanted to get something that would work. So I actually just went to a gas station, and they were selling these. Now, this is a very miniature blowtorch, and it is awesome because the amount of heat is variable. Like I can go about here, I can go fairly close. It doesn't char anything, and it allows me to, even when I'm in an upright piano like so, to kind of move the hammer side and go this close and do what I need to do. It is surprisingly, but you do have to be careful to not get too close. That's the only thing, but this is a very quick treatment. And let me just show you. Yeah, let me see if I can get a good angle. Yeah. So you can go this far away and you can feel the heat, and it is really awesome. Victor, have you used something like this before?
Yeah, I have. I actually collect lighters, so I
You what?
enjoy.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So yeah, I've tried a lot of different stuff. That's pretty good. Yeah, but yeah, you got to be careful though. If you get too close too quick, it gets. I mean, it's a blue flame. It's extremely hot, so you can
Yeah.
char pretty fast if you're not careful.
And so I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of how small and contained it is to do, you know, and it helps really get the job done fairly quickly, but you do have to be careful how close you get. But the nice thing is, unlike the flame, where you have to get right up in it to make a difference, you can come at it from about this far away and get it going. And it heats up all the way around it, and it works really well. I'm very surprised with how well this is working. However, like what Victor just said, do not get too up close and personal with it, especially as you're getting used to it. Because it is, like Victor said, blue flame, it's fairly intense. But this is a repair that you all need to know how to make, because one of the essential things that you're going to do is space and align parts. And so spacing the hammers to the strings is that pivotal starting point of usually a regulation. You know, you're going to be spacing the parts, spacing the hammers to the strings. Then you're going to go ahead and space the whippings. You know, let's just say you're in a grand piano. You're going to space the whippings to the hammers. Then you're just going to space the back checks to the hammer tails. But that all starts with spacing the hammers to the strings. And a lot of times you're not able to do that because the hammers are tilted one way or the other. Worst case scenario, they're tilted so far that they're actually rubbing against a neighboring hammer. And that is something that you're going to run up against. And there's really no other solution for it than to burn it over. That's the solution. And actually burn it over and get it so that it's squared properly and it's going to go, you know, where it needs to. Questions about this, about kind of the whole burning process? Because I know that it's new for a lot of folks, but it is one of those steps that a lot of people forget, but it is an essential step.
Jim Busby.
Wait, you cut out, Joe. Joe, we had you and then we lost you.
Joel, we can't hear you. Wait, wait, let me see if I can figure out what's going on.
Joe, we lost you. I'm so sorry, buddy.
I wanted to hear it too.
Okay, you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Sorry about that. I went to the Jim Busby clinic, and he had a suggestion for using one of the like charcoal lighter things.
Mm-hmm.
And you tilt it down so the blue flame is close to the hammer shank.
So more
like
this.
I'm have a bad connection. You're like not moving at all, so I can't see it.
So are you saying that instead of pointing it at the shank, you point it downwards? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so that the orange colored flame is away from the shank.
That's actually a really good idea. You would just have to make sure that you're not accidentally burning a neighboring shank because it's pointed downwards.
Hey, David, could you recenter your camera? We can't see what you're doing on the model.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so this guy needs to get burned over. I can actually feel it move.
Yeah, and I also like this because you don't have a cord or something you need to plug in, and you can buy butane pretty cheap that you can just keep refilling it.
Or that you could just spend $3 and buy another one.
Yeah, exactly.
How long it's going to last. This is one of those jobs, though, that like I don't do usually unless it's like I'm putting on new parts or I'm doing a full regulation or there is something that's like binding. It's like it's literally needing to be spaced. And so now that I've burned that over, I can space the hammers accordingly. But again, what really stinks is when you get to a piano and it's tilted so far over that you can't even space the hammers properly. So this is a really good thing to quickly do. It takes seconds, and then you've made it so that you can really space those hammers nicely. But I'm a big fan of something like this. Like Victor said, I like that I don't have to plug it in. I'm still getting used to it because it's way more heat than either of these, but it gets the job done quickly. It's very compact. And I do like how far away I can heat up the shank. It doesn't have to be up close and personal, but I am still getting used to it.
David, what do you think is the number one cause for those hammers to shift? Especially when most of them are straight, one of them bends over. Is it just humidity?
That's a great question. I believe it is. I believe there's some kind of tension within the shank itself. In the wood fibers, and then at some point there's a fluctuation in the humidity, and that changes and that alters kind of that the fibers within that shank, and it just twists. As far as I can tell, that's the case because there's no sign of a prior technician doing anything to it. It's not like somebody in the past came and changed anything. It's simply it appears to be something that is weather and humidity related. Has anybody else looked into that? Because I just never have.
I didn't know if you found them more in the center where they're played more often, if that has an impact, or if you find them all over, just sort of random.
I find it all over randomly, honestly. Yeah. And the piano that I did this the other day on, what was it? Yeah, it was a Spinet. And I was able to kind of take the, again, butane lighter and move it over so that the hammers were in line with the neighboring hammers. And then I was able to tilt the hammers left or right to center everything nicely. Do be sure, before you do too much of the spacing and lining, if there's deep grooves in those hammers, that is going to cause you some problems. And Joel, that was kind of what we were talking about last time is, I think that there was maybe a little bit of movement away, the hammer was moved in a different position. And it may be in a position where now it's not hitting the string grooves the way that it was before. I'm guessing, Joel, that because you said it's working now, that it kind of tilted maybe a little bit back into place. That's what I'm guessing has happened. And so sometimes what happens is we'll do this and then we'll have to come back out because the customer like, hey, these 3 notes sound muffled. That was what they'll say. They'll say it sounds different. It doesn't sound as loud as the other ones, because instead of hitting that core of the groove where it's a more stiffer felt, more compact felt, it's hitting the walls or that looser felt of the hammer, and it's creating a softer sound.
Yeah, I do feel like the weight of the mass of the hammer affects it. The lighter the hammer, the more likely it is to turn. Because, I mean, I feel like the top treble is always more twisted than the bass. Rarely do I feel I burn hammers that are in the bass compared to the last 2 sections, especially in an upright. Usually the upright, all those small hammers at the top are real close to each other, touching, and in the bass, you barely touch them. That's just me. I think it has to do with the weight of the hammerhead.
The weight of the hammerhead itself is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if it's affecting it, but I think the lighter hammerheads, for some reason, I guess there's not a lot of weight that's keeping it straight.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, something like that.
Well, one of the things I do notice is I notice this on a lot more of the young Changs, Samiks, more entry-level Asian pianos. They'll kind of be moved side to side. Those heads will be kind of off. And as we've talked before, those pianos are built at a price point. And one of the reasons that they're able to do that is they use kind of new growth wood that is more susceptible to those to the humidity changes. So when that new wood that has not been seasoned experiences those weather or humidity changes, they go crazy, left or right, they move. And so I think that you're right. I think that the hammerhead, but I do think, and maybe what you're saying is it kind of goes in tandem with how much it's going to move, because that heavier or the lighter that head, the more it's going to be moving. That is an interesting point, because I do think that you're right, Victor. Now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't seem to be as prevalent in the bass, in the low bass especially. And so that could be tied to it. That's an interesting observation for sure. When I started to learn, it's as technicians, we find mentors or we find help. And I remember when I was shown this burning and traveling, it was such a it was an exciting thing, and yet it was a discouraging thing, because because where I was at before, I kind of reached the top, right? I reached the top and I'm like, okay, I know how to do everything piano related. I'm doing it all. And then I moved to a different sandbox, move to a different fish tank. And now it's just like, whoa, there's just this whole other element, this whole other upper echelon of stuff to learn and to improve on. And I think that's something that you're going to find out, because you're going to learn a lot from myself and a lot from, people like Jacob and our coaches, but you may, find other things. And I know that Michael, you've been going to these, the playgrounds, the PTG playgrounds, and doing all that stuff. So I highly encourage that, because it's the more you can learn, the better. And I laugh now thinking about what I knew when I was like, hey, classic pianos, trust me with all your pianos and I'll do great work for them. I just laugh now, and sometimes I laugh about it with the owners of Classic, because it was kind of funny and ridiculous, but in a funny way. Questions? Any other questions about the idea of burning? Is this something that you feel nervous about? Are you comfortable with it? Is it just like, I'm going to kind of wait and see? And I do recommend that even before you go to this level, maybe try that embossing gun. I think that they're on Amazon. They have a little on and off switch, and some of them even have a dial temp for the heat, but that's way easier to do than this and way safer to do than either of these two as you're getting started. But it is just a little bit bulkier than something like this.
So are you twisting the hammer on the shank when you're doing the burning?
I'm holding it at the top like so. I usually have it kind of a finger held right where the shank is, and then one on top. And I'm literally just twisting it left or right. And I'll do that again with the uprights as well. I'll go and twist it to the side. And I mean, I'll go really, you wouldn't go that extreme. You want to go just enough and to where you're adding pressure so that when you heat the shank up, it wants to move that over. And it was the strangest thing when I first saw, John Slavic do it, because it was, I had not seen it. And I was so surprised how much movement you can make. But yeah, what it is literally just going through, and I'm holding it tight so that it's, and then twisting it to the left or to the right. And
Okay. I wasn't sure if there's more twist or bend on the shank.
yeah, it's a twist. It's like twisting counterclockwise. Let's say that's, yeah. I always just say left or right, but it is kind of clockwise or counterclockwise, and it is a twist. And it is kind of fun if you ever have time to, if you have a piano that's more for practicing on, it is fun to try to see how much you can move that and how much it takes. And you're going to find with the newer pianos, with the cheaper, maybe Asian made pianos, it's going to take a lot more movement because that wood is newer and there's a little bit more moisture, I would say, in it to move them than like 100-year-old upright. You'd be surprised. Like, it doesn't take a lot to heat that up and it goes whoosh. And you can get into trouble if you're not careful. So be sure to try it out.
Hey, David, at our PTD chapter meeting this past weekend, they did an all-day regulation, and in the person who was doing the demonstrations in the discussion, when he was doing the twisting, he would twist, heat, and he would pause before releasing it. Do you do that same thing? Do you heat and twist and then remove the heat and pause before you release it?
Yeah, do you like let it set for a second? Or do you
Maybe
just...
a split second.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
you're curling your hair, you have to wait until...
Yeah, because he gave it a couple of beats before he released it and let it drop.
Yeah, I would say I do, instead of that, I usually will do several rounds. So, because I like to let it sit for a couple minutes. So I'll do it and I'll get it to where I think it should be. And then I'll come back to it 5 minutes later and see if it stayed. Because it does, usually I will overshoot it because it's going to want to kind of go back to where it was. Kind of like, in tuning a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's a fine idea.
So you're like tuning sharp and putting it flat and let it
exactly
flat. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll overshoot it because it's going to want to settle back a little bit to where it's been. Yeah, but that's an interesting idea, just letting it. So basically, he's letting it cool in that position.
Exactly. He's holding the tension, letting it cool slightly before releasing.
Yeah, I'm going to try that out. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was still using a heat gun, but he actually bought one from like Lowe's, one of the like paint stripper heat guns that from Wagner paint supply type stuff. So
yeah, and that's kind of what this is too. I think I got it from.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I got this at a craft store, and I like this one because it does have the dial temp. Sometimes with those heat guns, my goodness, they're just on or off, and the on is like, I don't know, like harnessing a lightsaber. It's just like so much heat, so intense. So
those things can melt anything if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up buying one of the Weller Pyro pens that runs off of butane, but it's normally used for soldering iron, but they have a secondary tip that was um, for having a heat unit so that it actually blows out hot air. So
Oh, really?
it's a mini heat gun, but it runs.
Oh, that would be cool. Did I cut out? Did you cut out?
I can't hear you, Michael.
Okay, I really. Michael, if you're able to find that and post that, I would love to see that. That would be slick.
Yeah. Stacy, do you have Cobran's list of his tools? Because I was trying to remember what he used, and it was really interesting. It's like a lighter, but it has a screen so that none of the smoke or anything can come out, just the heat.
Yes, I will find that.
That would be cool. Leave it
with
over
me.
to find out something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he has some cool stuff. So Coburn is really amazing with the tool thing. Like he really tries everything. Like he knows so much.
It really does. Yeah, I would say this is one of the more dangerous things that we do as technicians because it involves flame and fire. I've caught a piano. I did catch an element of the piano on fire one time, and it wasn't using this. And it was in that same short period where I was starting to try to prove myself to classic pianos. And I was actually, gosh, this is terrifying. I was actually removing key bushings. And so I was removing the key bushings, steaming them out. So the process for removing the key bushings is you would go ahead and put a little bit of cloth, that's wrung out and yet it's still damp along the front rail, or excuse me, the balance rail or front rail punchings like this. And you would put an iron, and then that would steam, and then that would eventually loosen up those key bushings. Well, the way that you do that is you usually have the iron going and it's steaming out a set while you're moving on to another area of the keys, and you're removing those with little. And I forgot that I had it on, and I started to smell something. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I pulled this off, and this was a brand new set of key tops they had just done for a rebuilt Steinway. And they were like, hey, let's see what you can do, kid, kind of a thing. And I pulled it off really quick, and it was smoking, and I look over at the white, and it had a hole burning, and it was literally on fire. And so the key top was literally smoldering and on fire. I had no idea what to do, and I was like, oh my gosh, not only I just messed this up, I messed it up like you can't even, what am I gonna do? Luckily, that's when I met a dear friend, Larry, and he was a key expert, and so he was local in the area, and we took it to him, and it was like in the middle of the night because it was like due the next day, and he fixed it for like free because he saw this like poor little kid, a 20-year-old kid that was like messed something up majorly, and he just fixed it, and it was just seamless. It was just perfect. I never told Classic about that. I should tell them. They would get a kick out of that. It would be hilarious. So, but yeah, you're gonna do stuff like that, and just try to figure out everybody in the area that can help save you. You're gonna need piano movers, touch-up artists, key people. Figure out who those people are, and take them to lunch ahead of the time because you're probably gonna need help at some point, and offer to help them out at some point because that was one thing that we did. I did that early on, and I was fortunate to find a network of people, and we really work together well and help each other out. But that was one that really stressed me out to this day. I think back on that.
I put the link for the soldering gun that Coburn uses in the chat. That was a really good point about networking, though, because the best thing you can do for your people is send referrals. So if they see that you're doing that, it's just it builds a really good relationship. Like if you let them know you're referring moves to them, like your piano mover people, or it really builds a good little network.
Yeah, that's so true. Burning. Be careful. Have fun with it. And yeah, I just experiment with it. I would try Cobran's device too, because one of the things about Cobran is he's really into R&D, research and development, and he's very much like my brother Adam when it comes to that. And so he'll find really cool things out there. So we're really lucky to have him as one of our coaches here.
How many shanks have you broken, David?
So next question, please. Are we talking about when I pull out an action?
Or no, like burning and you twist it too hard.
Oh. Wow, I have done that a fair amount. No, that is true.
Yeah, I would say be careful. Yeah, there's definitely a point where you can go too far and break the shank.
Yeah, I did that.
Even though, yeah,
I did that early on. That's so true. And so, luckily, the way that they break is you can do a scarf joint fairly easily. Just re-glue it because it usually breaks in a nice way. And I would say I probably did that about 5 times, all within maybe the first year or 2 of doing this. And it was just like, I was just really reef on it. And
yeah.
You just,
I think the second and third action I did, I broke 2 on each. But yeah, just kind of wait. Like I just wanted to get it over with, and so yeah, you're just like, I can go a little more, and then it breaks. But yeah, you're right. It does always break in a clean way where you can just glue it back.
Yeah, it does. But that is funny. I totally forgot about that. It was too traumatic for me. I just like blocked it out. No, yeah. What were we gonna say, Robert?
I have an add-on question for that because I'm practicing fixing broken shanks, but I also want to fix extract the head and put it on a new shank. What glue do you use for the hammer?
I like using that PVC glue. I like using a Titebond 1.
The Titebond makes good little collars when you're doing that.
It does, and that's usually available at the hardware store.
Do you guys ever use like a hair straightener to take them off?
Ooh, yes.
Has anyone done that?
That is a really cool trick. And so literally a hair straightener, like you would use the
you just clamp it for a bit and it pops off.
Yeah.
It's fun to do.
Okay, kind of help me visualize that, David, with
yeah. So,
at least put a hammer up there. Show me how you're doing.
Have your hand be like the straightener.
It's a flat iron.
Because I'm going to try and get some of them off.
So, like, let's just say we wanted to take, like, let's just say this is broken right here.
Mm-hmm.
We would kind of clamp, maybe some vice grips to hold on to this. And then we would use the hair straightener that, kind of looks like, this, and you would just plunk and heat it up, like leave it on there for 10, 15, 30 seconds, depending on how high you have it. And it warms up. It warms up the entire molding to where you can just go plop.
Yeah, they just pop right off. It's the coolest thing.
And you could do the same thing in the, the upright butts. Put it on the butt, hold it on there, and then just pull that shank out. It's really slick. And so if you do have it so that, well, first off, in a grand piano, there's actually a shank extracting pliers that you can buy, and those work really well. But a lot of times technicians have issues extracting the shanks from the upright hammers and then the upright butts. That's usually where technicians have a hard time. And so what we recommend is actually you drill a little pilot hole and then screw a little screw, let's just say this is sheared off, right? This is an upright hammer, it's sheared off, and you would go ahead and screw a little screw in there and then you would go ahead and use that to kind of pull out that shank after you've heated up the head or heated up the butt. Because a lot of times those shanks shear off flush where there's nothing for you to grip onto to hold them out. So adding a screw there does help. They actually also have a shank extracting tool, which is good. There's so many tools. There's so many tools. I would say that's definitely worth getting. I don't remember how expensive those are, but I've had good success with those. And but I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm able to get that shank out just with heating it up with the hair straightener and just kind of pulling at it. But yeah, that's a good reminder, Stacy, that hair straightener. It was a female technician that showed us that, and we're like, whoa, I never would have thought of that.
So on a Steinway, the hammer shank doesn't go all the way through the thing. So it's closed at the top.
We're talking about, yeah, so for an upright, you're right. It's closed. Unlike the grands, the grand pianos, the shanks go all the way through to the other side of the shank, of the hammer. But you're right, Joel. In an upright, they stop, and it's usually 7/8, at least 3/4, and then there's they stop. They don't go all the way through, and so that's why I'm saying it's nice to have that grand shank extracting tool. It's a pair of pliers with a little nub on it that you're able to just, it basically clamps and then it pushes this out the other side. So that's a great little tool. It's probably $30, and that's great for extracting grand hammer shanks out when they're stuck. But with the uprights, yeah, you don't have that ability to come from the other side. You have to pull it out from that one side.
I wonder if that hair straightener would work on key bushings.
I don't know.
Instead of an iron.
Yeah. I mean, granted, mine was kind of a fluke accident. Usually that happened to me once. Usually the iron works. But and sometimes you don't even need to iron them out. What we used to also do is get like a hand soap, or not a hand soap. It was a wallpaper remover solution in water, and we would just drizzle that in there and wait a couple hours, and then they would just basically you can pull them out. So depending on the glue that was used, that works as well.
Yeah. How many times have a client told you, "Are you setting my piano on fire?" Because you're using a lighter. I stopped doing it in front of people. I'd wait till they leave the room.
Actually, I do the opposite. I do it in front of people, like, "Hey, do you want to see this?" And they're usually like, "Whoa, that's super cool."
Yeah.
We have a special, that aerosol spray, that lubricant spray, that McLube, and I now go out of my way to overly explain how smelly this stuff is, because I had a customer that I didn't tell that to, and you would have thought that I just sprayed, like, I don't know, asbestos or whatever in their home. They were just irate with how much it smelled, and they were afraid of it. They didn't know what to do with it. I felt horrible because I didn't communicate it to them. And so we opened up the doors, and she was like, "I got to get out of here. Just let me know when you leave." And it was bad. And so I think that if I would have told her, "Hey, I'm going to spray this lubricant on the key pins," which is what I did, it's going to smell kind of like this. Is that okay? Yeah. Or she probably would have said, "No, do not smell. I have an allergic reaction to anything chemically." So be sure to over-explain that. But I don't know. I think it's kind of cool when you're like, "Hey, this is I do this kind of stuff, and I do fire," and I don't know. I haven't ever had anybody say, "Why are you catching my piano on fire?" That would be awkward, though. What did you say?
Yeah, they get real scared. They're like, "Oh my God, you're gonna set the piano on fire!" And I'm like, "No, it's okay. Like, it's not. I mean, I see why, because everything in there is like wood and felt, and so then they probably think like the entire thing is just gonna catch fire. But I'm like, no, it's okay. I do this all the time. Yeah, and then usually they'll just like go to another room or something. I guess they don't want to watch.
They just can't even do it. They can't handle it.
Yeah, I do it. Like if I'm at a school and kids are watching, I do it with them because the kids freak out, and I like watching the kids. Yeah, they have a fun time.
I had a fun experience the other day. We just had the sweetest couple. They were older couple, and they were doing an appraisal, and they were talking about my little doctor's brief bag. So I guess he was a medical doctor, and so she's like, "Hey, I'm Jeff or whatever. Look at his, it's like a doctor's bag." And I'm like, "Actually, it is," and like a lot of people kind of freak out when they see what's all in it. So I pulled out my tuning hammer. And then I pulled out the cyber tuner. I'm like, okay. Then I pulled out the tool roll, and they're like, "Wow, that's a lot of stuff." Then I pull out the vacuum, and they're just like, "Shut up, no way." So that's
Mary Poppins bag.
It's so Mary Poppins, so it's really fun. But it's fun to have like that experience with them. It's just like you don't get to see that, and to this day, I do tell people this because it was such a horrible experience. I remember the one time growing up that we had our piano tuned, and I was so excited because I heard this piano tuner was coming, and he arrives and he's got all these little, he's got like the doctor's bag, and he looked like a very tall, skinny Santa Claus. That's what he looked like. And I remember it to this day, and I was so excited to see him. And so I kind of sit down on the couch, maybe 20 feet from him, and he just kind of erupts like, "You kids have to get out of here. I do not want to. Mom, come in here and get these." And I was just so like, oh. And so we have an opportunity to not give our customers that experience. And it's so fun when the kids come in there and they see it, they get inspired by that. I love it. And we're changing that. We're changing that stigma.
Yeah, not just little kids, but like older kids and young adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The first time we had a piano tuner come over, I was in college already, and that I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And then that's why I wanted to do it. But I was already a lot older.
Yeah.
And so, and Ramses too. Ramses was older when he was also in college. Yeah. So yeah, it's because growing up in our area, there was no piano tuners, and so. This one guy, he came to both of our houses, and so now we're the ones doing the whole area because he's done, and it's us. We're the only ones here.
My customer today was like, "So is this what you do for like a full-time job?" I'm like, "Yep, this is what I do." I mean, everybody's always surprised. They're like, "I didn't think there was that many pianos out there." And maybe rich people have pianos is what other people say, like when I'm around the dinner table with strangers or whatever. Like, really? It's just such a fun, weird job.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody always asks me that. They're like, "There's that many pianos?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's a lot." They're like, "There's really that many that you guys stay busy?" Yeah. I mean, like, think of all the schools, and I explain, and they're like, I guess that's true, yeah.
Yeah, it ain't going anywhere.
Victor, I have a question for you. Do you have more lighters or screwdrivers?
Oh, I don't know. It's close. I collect Zippos. I love Zippo lighters, so that's what I use. On Grands, I use Zippos.
Whoa.
And the one I use on an upright, it's a Zippo, but it's more like it's a longer one. So that one's really cool. But like I have a Zippo case. I collect like Zippo. They made tape measures for a while, so they're like little Zippo tape measures. And the screwdrivers, I've gone through a lot, but I only use PB Swiss now. Yeah.
I love it when people collect things. Like, I don't even care what it is. Like, just the fact that when people find that thing that they like, I totally get into it. It could be anything. Like, oh, I collect, I don't know, Crocs. I'm like, awesome. What kind of Crocs do you have? Like, just anything. So it just...
Yeah, what do you guys collect?
Yeah.
What do you guys collect?
I collect backpacks, by the way. That's what I do. Little packs.
Collect Hot Wheels cars.
That's a good one.
Wait, who said Hot Wheels cars? That's so cool.
That's me.
That's
Those are so fun. When you get the little trucks, you can like make your own like. And then I just like have so
I
many.
remember they had the suitcases with all the ones that you can put in there.
Yes, and you know the ones that came out. Okay, I'm old, but like you would like you'd like push down on them and they'd make sounds. Do you have any of those? Like the cop car, you'd like push it and it'd be like.
No.
We had ones that did sparks back in the day. That's awesome. Robert, what do you collect?
I have my family knickknack shelf. You know, things like my grandfather's University of Texas alumni card from 1952. Little things like that.
Yeah, family heritage.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
That is cool.
Joel.
Michael collects dulcimers.
He does?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Actually, that's from my family.
Oh,
my mom,
sorry. I just saw your collection. I'm like, that's amazing.
Joel, what is this? Is that?
Raw? Are those?
Oh, there's djembes and
Wow.
different percussion instruments.
Joel, that's
It's
awesome.
not an addiction. I can quit anytime I want.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's cool. What?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
What else, Michael? What do you collect then? Since you inherited the dulcimer collection.
Nothing right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think he
There's that
collects
too.
tools now. He's collecting piano stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically.
Wait, I
Guitar
can't
pedals,
see it.
another problem.
What was
What was
that?
What are those? Are those foot pedals?
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that what that's like. Those are yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Stephanie, do you collect anything?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I kind of do. Like, I kind of collect like bones, if that counts. But that's kind of a weird one.
Wow, that's the coolest one. Are you kidding?
I love it.
Yeah, I got some weird shelves, but I'd show you guys, but I'm at work right now, so.
Oh my goodness.
I don't
Put
keep
it
my
in the
bones at work.
feed. Put it in the feed sometime and I'll know what it is. That sounds so cool. Wow.
Any
Yeah,
human
fun.
bones?
Yeah.
No, I've always wanted human bones, though. I think that'd be so cool.
Well, Christmas is coming up.
That's so
Yeah, it's kind of
cool.
funny because one of my best friends collects teeth, and so between the two of us, we've just got this
Yeah,
really
bones.
weird-looking
I
collection.
love it.
Robert,
I had
did
the
you tell
customers
me
the
what
other
you
day.
collect?
Oh yeah.
Knickknacks, but now I have David to blame because now I collect tools from Harbor Freight.
Yeah, you do.
Oh my gosh. It's just like an addiction, and because the prices are pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's how they get you.
And sometimes they're like,
And you can get a 4-foot-long screwdriver.
I bought one today, except I got a pack of like 12 for $8 because I needed one. Well, you might as well buy the pack.
Well.
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
love
I
it.
just learned something so cool about all of you. That was so fun. So fun.
Yeah. I've been collecting typewriters, but I'm starting to work on those more than my actions that I have.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah.
That was Tom Hanks. He's a typewriter collector as well.
Yeah, that's right.
We may have to change up some of the timing on our Friday morning. I've been using Mark's and Supply 88, the tuning hammer. Oh my goodness. I have thoughts. Same with the tuning mutes. I have thoughts. So keep an eye out for maybe a slight time change, but we're going to try to make that work because I think I have an appointment that I have to be at right after. But I'm excited because, yeah, I've never, it's been weird. It's been weird.
Oh yeah,
I
they're
want to order
really great.
the mutes you can already order. Could you give us a quick, like, do you like them or no?
Yeah, the chewy mutes.
Yeah, because you can order them already on there. I saw them today.
You can order them already. I do like them. I do like them, but I don't like the super wide one. But that may be just me. I'm going to try the wide one again tomorrow. So what I did is I actually cut mine in half, and I really like that. But I've never been a super wide mute guy, and I think that that's all they're selling right now. But I'm going to try the wide one tomorrow, especially in the base. So I did it an upright today, and it held up really well because I was thinking that they were just going to slide off. And I would say that you have to push it in a little bit further than what you would a regular rubber mute. about what you would have to put in with a fabric mute. So it's weird because you think of it as a rubber mute, but it's not. It's, and you know, because it's like, okay, this obviously isn't, yeah. So I would say I like it, but let me play around with the wider one and go from there tomorrow.
Yeah, they look cool. I want to order some, but yeah, I want to know if they're good. Now,
The
do you?
tuning lever, though, I literally
Yeah.
dropped twice because of how light it is. Literally moving it from pin. So that's been getting used to. So I spent all day today tuning with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tune half my tuning tomorrow with it and then half of it without it and see, because I did pick up my hand afterwards and I'm like, geez, this feels like it weighs 50 pounds. So I'm excited. I'll give you the breakdown on it on Friday.
Yeah. Real quick question: do you think you can hear the difference between a rubber mute and a felt mute?
Hear the difference in the tuning?
Or like while you're tuning, do you think one mute's better than the other?
I'm such a a sensory person. I don't like. I like the way the rubber mutes. Excuse me, the felt mutes feel going in like that. And I feel like the rubber mutes, and this is what Mark and Supply 88 have tried to do, is the rubber mutes get corroded over time. And sometimes not even that long, and to where they go from kind of spongy to like really hard, and it makes my skin crawl when that harder, stiffer mutes go in there. I don't like that. And I'm not getting that feeling from these. So I would say I can't tell a tuning difference. But I also say that the felt mutes, I get grossed out by them over time.
Yes, exactly. I love felt mutes. I like the way they go in. I like the way they look and sound. But they just get so dirty, and so we use rubber just because like they don't get dirty. And if they do, you can just run them underwater. But if these new ones are like the best of both, then I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, and part of me is like, I'm not sure yet if it's a mute replacement fully yet. I'm not fully sure there. So I'm excited. I'll know tomorrow though, because I'm gonna really dive into it. Because I was just kind of getting used. I would think I was getting used to more the hammer today, especially, than the mute. So I was so focused on like, this is really weird on this upright. So in a good way.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you done a grand with it yet or no? Not yet.
I think tomorrow I'm doing a grand. I've done an upright. Awesome. So yeah.
Awesome.
All right. I'll see you on Friday. Keep collecting them bones, Stephanie. I'll see you later.
Yeah, we'll do.
So cool. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
See y'all.